Hello and welcome back to my channel. Today's video is about primary education for migrant students in Germany and Sweden. It is the second in a series about the inclusion of students in the German and Swedish educational systems in the wake of the migrant crisis. Now, if you want to watch them in order, I'll link the first one in the description box below. It gives a little background on why I chose these two countries, as well as talking about the structure of the preschool systems and migrant inclusion. So right into primary education in Germany. From a basic structural standpoint, primary education is compulsory for all children in Germany beginning at age 6, regardless of immigration or citizenship status. Now, public education is tuition-free and various funds are available to students who need help with supplies or appropriate clothing. Primary school lasts for 4 or 6 years depending on the state and is followed by secondary school. Curriculum varies by state as well, although there are federal proficiency standards for math, reading, and writing in the 4th grade. Specific provisions for migrants range from full immersion in regular classes with no designated language support to completely segregated intensive newcomer German language and culture classes. Local educational agencies have a good deal of choice as to how they serve their students. Now, a couple of important ideas have come from recent research about the inclusion or exclusion of migrant students in German schools. So the first thing is that no matter how you include or segregate the migrant children, there may be unintended consequences. For example, while full inclusion in standard primary school without specialized language support is designed to be the most inclusive of the models, migrant students are at a disadvantage to the native German speakers, and this may create a social distance between the two groups. On the other hand, separating the students temporarily for intensive German language and cultural instruction is absolutely exclusionary by design, but the goal is an easier transition into the classroom after the initial culture shock has worn off and a certain understanding of the language has been acquired. So the goal of the segregated classes is inclusion in mainstream classes, while the unintended consequence of immediate inclusion in mainstream classes is social segregation. Neither extreme fares well when we really examine it. The second idea that we get from Germans is amazing, if not the most practical. Bilingual primary and secondary schools exist in Hamburg and Berlin. These are schools where there is an effort to balance the student and teacher populations, with half being native speakers of each language. So in theory, if the school is bilingual French, there would be half native German speakers and half native French speakers. In practice, there's often a heavy skew on one side or the other. The instruction is also supposedly split evenly between the languages so that students learn academic and subject-specific language for both tongues. The 2015 PISA results show that developing biliteracy, or literacy in more than one language simultaneously, nearly eliminates the achievement gap for migrant students in Germany. But there are a few caveats. There is a strong bias toward Western languages. French and English are by far the most commonly available languages, while bilingual Arabic and Turkish schools are almost unheard of. Add to that the fact that classes in Arabic and Turkish are not credit-bearing when they are available, and you can see that most of the recent migrants are still at a significant disadvantage when it comes to bilingual schooling. Let's move on to Sweden. Swedish primary school and lower secondary school up through grade 9 are housed in a single building and generally thought of as a single type of schooling. It's compulsory beginning at age 7, 1 year later than Germany, for native Swedes, refugees resettled by the UN, and traditional immigrants. On the other hand, schools must offer asylum-seeking students a place in school within 30 days of arrival, but attendance is optional. It's unclear how many asylum seekers decline to attend school, so I'm not sure how much of an issue this really is, but the idea that there might be large numbers of children outside of the schooling system in Sweden is disturbing. At all levels of Swedish schooling, there is a national curriculum guide, but local educational agencies have significant latitude about what and how they teach. For example, one of the grades 7 through 9 social sciences guidelines requires instruction about, quote, several of the pre-18th century civilizations from Asia, Africa, and Americas. So this could include any of what, at least a dozen civilizations, and which of those to include is actually up to the local agencies. Mother tongue instruction is statutorily guaranteed to any child attending school who has at least one parent or guardian who speaks a language other than Swedish at home, at least in theory. Now, there are 2 loopholes in this law which reduce the number of students who receive this type of bilingual instruction. If there are fewer than 15 students in a school who speak the same mother tongue, or if there is not a qualified instructor available, the school does not have to offer mother tongue instruction to those students. There does seem to be a discrepancy between the intent of the mother tongue law and the implementation. In Stockholm's public schools, 23% of students take Swedish as a foreign language, but only 6% participate in mother tongue instruction. Either there are a huge number of languages with only a few speakers each, so they fall under the 15 student threshold, or there are very few qualified instructors available, or qualified students are opting not to take the offered classes. Whatever the reason, mother tongue instruction is not as common as it should be. Health and dental care are part of Swedish schooling at all levels, with a full clinic on site in each school. I'm not sure how often your students miss school for checkups, immunizations, or dental cleanings, but I can imagine that having a physician on the school staff would make taking care of the students easier for all parents, but especially migrant parents. From an inclusion and integration standpoint, there are several things to talk about. Much like Germany, there appears to be a dichotomy of choice in instructional models, either full immersion with little to no in-class support, or segregated transition classes where they work primarily on Swedish language skills and sometimes a little math. With these models, there is the same risk of creating either real or perceived separation, which can perpetuate the us-them dialogue. Additionally, some teachers have been found to have low expectations of migrants in their classes. Now, this is not a Sweden-only phenomenon. That migrants are underrepresented in gifted and talented programs in United States public schools is a well-known fact. This has been a short introduction to migrants in Swedish and German primary schools. This is the second in a 4-part series. I'll link the first video below and stay tuned for part 3 about secondary level schooling. As always, like and subscribe for regular content about migrants and refugees in education and the news. I'm Catherine McDougall. Ciao.